Siberia, a vast land stretching across the northern edge of the world, where endless forests, frozen rivers, and windswept tundra define the horizon. It's a place of extremes, from icebound plains to remote mountain valleys, and a wilderness where life endures against harsh winters and shifting seasons. But the true heart of Siberia isn't just its landscape, it's its people. The tribes of this land have created cultures shaped by resilience, ancestral knowledge, and centuries of survival in one of Earth's coldest regions. Their traditions, herding practices, and rituals reflect a deep harmony between humans and the land. This is Siberia, a realm apart, where life moves with the rhythm of ice and sky. Far beyond the frozen rivers of the far northeast, in a land sculpted by endless winter, the Yakut people of the Sakha Republic endure a world where cold shapes every horizon and the breath of the earth seems to rise in drifting frost. Their story begins on wide plains where horse and reindeer herders moved with the rhythm of the seasons, carrying with them a knowledge passed through generations that allowed life to take root in a climate that often falls to 50 degrees below zero. These early communities learned to read the sky, the wind, and the shifting light as carefully as others read written history. Through centuries of isolation and fierce winter storms, the Yakut formed a culture defined by determination. Their horses adapted to the deep cold, grazing beneath layers of snow, while reindeer carried families across long stretches of frozen land. Ancient routes crossed between forest and tundra, and along these paths, stories traveled about ancestors who survived great freezes and found strength in the vast quiet of the region. As empires rose and faded, the Yakut remained steady in their homeland, guided by traditions that anchored them through every hardship. The conflict of their environment has always been the cold itself. Winter arrives early and stays long, settling over villages in heavy white silence. Yet each challenge strengthened the community. Timber houses were built to withstand crushing frost, and herding cycles shifted in harmony with the harsh climate. Every decision was shaped by survival, but also by respect for the land that sustained them. Their identity grew from this balance between resilience and reverence. The climax of the Yakut story is the endurance that continues today. On these icy plains, where forests shimmer in the pale light of midwinter, the legacy of horse and reindeer herders lives on. It stands as a testament to human strength in one of the coldest inhabited places on the planet, a reminder that even in landscapes ruled by ice, culture, and memory endure with quiet power. Deep within the endless forests of Siberia, where the taiga stretches in quiet layers of shadow and pale morning light, the Evenki move through a world shaped by reindeer, river paths, and the memory of ancient migrations. Their story begins among towering pines and silent valleys. A landscape that guided nomadic families long before written records marked the region. Each season carried them across vast distances as they followed the rhythm of their herds, trusting the instincts passed down through generations of hunters and herders who understood every shift in the land. For centuries, the taiga served as both home and challenge. Winters tightened around the trees with sharp cold, and summers brought wide rivers and dense undergrowth. The Evenki developed a mastery of this environment, reading tracks in the snow, navigating by stars, and moving lightly through forests that remained untouched by outsiders. Reindeer were central to their lives, providing transport across frozen ground and forming the heart of their migratory cycles. Families traveled with deliberate grace, building camps that rose and vanished with the seasons, while stories and traditions traveled with them. Conflict lived in the landscape itself. Storms could erase trails, predators moved silently through the trees, and the vastness of the taiga tested every decision. Yet these hardships forged a deep resilience. The Evenki carried forward skills that allowed them to thrive where others could not. Their understanding of forest roots, weather patterns, and animal behavior created a bond with the land that shaped their identity. The climax of their story is the endurance of this connection. In remote stretches of taiga, where morning mist settles on quiet lakes and reindeer walk through columns of light between the trees, the Evenki continue to embody a legacy rooted in movement and memory. Their presence in the northern forests stands as a quiet testament to human adaptability in one of the most remote and demanding environments on Earth. Far across the open tundra of the far north, where the horizon stretches in an unbroken sweep of white and pale sky, the Nenets travel with the rhythm of immense reindeer herds that have guided their way of life for centuries. Their story begins on these windswept plains, a place shaped by icy storms, long winters, and the steady movement of caravans that cross the land in patterns older than remembered history. Each migration follows routes learned through generations, linking families to a landscape that demands both strength and patience. For countless seasons, the Nenets have lived as nomads in a region where winter can linger for most of the year. The tundra offers little shelter, yet it provides everything essential for those who understand its language. Reindeer form the heart of this world, supplying transport, protection, and a sense of continuity that carries through each cycle of movement. Camps rise and fall across the tundra as families guide their herds through frozen expanses, shallow rivers, and summer grazing grounds that lie waiting beneath the snow. Conflict rests in the sheer immensity of the Arctic itself. Storms sweep across the plains with little warning. Snowdrifts shift without sound, and the cold presses against every journey. Yet these challenges only deepen the resilience of the Nenets. Their knowledge of weather signs, ice conditions, and migration paths protects them in a region where mistakes can be unforgiving. Generations have relied on this wisdom, shaping a culture built upon motion, endurance, and unity with their animals. The climax of the Nenets story is the continuation of their great migrations. In the far north, where reindeer hooves thud softly upon snow and sled tracks form lines across the white earth, their legacy remains unbroken. The vastness of the tundra becomes a living record of their passage, a reminder that even in the most remote Arctic lands, human resilience can shape a powerful and enduring way of life. Along the raw coastline of Russia's Far East, where the Bering Sea rolls in heavy swells and the wind carries the scent of salt and ice, the Chukchi shaped their world beside waters that have sustained them for countless generations. Their story begins on these remote shores, a place defined by towering cliffs, drifting fog, and the steady presence of marine mammals that move through the cold currents. Long before distant powers reached this region, coastal Chukchi families built their lives around the migrations of whales and walrus, reading the sea with a knowledge as old as their ancestors. For centuries, the shoreline served as both home and challenge. Storms swept in from the open water, waves struck against rock, and winter locked the landscape in deep silence. Yet the Chukchi thrived by understanding the rhythms of this northern coast. They watched the paths of sea ice, followed the seasonal movement of animals, and developed the skill to guide their vessels through unpredictable waters. Each hunt required courage and coordination, linking entire communities to the strength of the ocean and the creatures that traveled through it. Their oral traditions carried stories of long journeys, fierce winds, and the unity needed to survive in this distant frontier. Conflict lived in the meeting point between land and sea. Weather could shift in moments, ice could trap boats, and the vastness of the coast demanded constant awareness. These dangers became a defining force in Chukchi life, shaping a culture built on resilience, memory, and cooperation. Knowledge of tides, storms, and marine routes allowed families to endure hardships that outsiders rarely witnessed. The climax of their story is the enduring bond between the Chukchi and the Northern Ocean. Along these isolated shores, where waves break in slow rhythm and the sea glows beneath cold light, their heritage continues. The coastline holds the echoes of generations who lived with the water as guide and guardian, creating a legacy that remains powerful in one of the most remote maritime regions on Earth. Far out on the open tundra of northern Siberia, where the land stretches in long, quiet lines beneath a pale horizon, the Dolgan shaped their world by weaving together the strengths of Yakut horse people and Evenki forest nomads. Their story begins on these distant plains, a place defined by drifting snow, low sunlight, and the steady movement of reindeer herds that guided families from one season to the next. Long before outside maps marked this region, Dolgan communities carried with them a mixture of languages, customs, and skills that allowed life to take root in a landscape ruled by winter. Through centuries of movement across the tundra, the Dolgan built their identity around adaptation. Reindeer became essential companions, pulling sleds across frozen ground and leading families toward new pastures. Hunters traveled along river edges in search of game, following routes laid down by Evenki ancestors. At the same time, Yakut influences shaped their approach to herding, shelter building, and seasonal travel. This blending of traditions created a culture that stood resilient against cold that settled over the plains for much of the year. Across the tundra, where reindeer move in slow lines and the horizon glows with cold northern light, the Dolgan continue to carry forward a culture shaped by two ancestral worlds. Their presence on these remote plains stands as a testament to resilience, memory, and the quiet strength required to thrive in one of the most challenging landscapes on Earth. Across the wide rivers and frost-touched forests of northeastern Siberia, where mist rises slowly above quiet water, the Yukaghir carry one of the oldest stories on this land. Their journey begins along winding channels and open tundra, a region that shaped families long before written history reached the north. The landscape held their memory, and every shoreline carried traces of those who lived by skill, patience, and an unbroken connection to the natural world. For centuries, the Yukaghir relied on their deep knowledge of rivers and forests. Hunters crossed long stretches of land marked only by animal tracks, reading the snow for signs of movement and listening for subtle shifts carried by the wind. Their oral traditions preserved stories of ancestors who survived harsh winters, navigated swollen rivers, and trusted the wisdom that had guided their people for ages. Conflict lived in the landscape itself. Winter arrived early, sealing rivers beneath thick ice. Yet these conditions shaped the resilience of the Yukaghir. Their techniques for hunting, fishing, and travel grew from careful observation of nature. They learned how to navigate frozen waterways, how to track animals across deep snow, and how to build shelters that held firm through bitter cold. The climax of their story is the endurance of one of Siberia's most ancient cultures. Their history flows through the northern landscape like the rivers they once followed. A testament to human persistence in a world shaped by cold, distance, and time. Along the sweeping shores of Lake Baikal, where deep blue water meets mountains wrapped in drifting cloud, the the Buryat shaped their world at the crossroads of ancient steppes and the vast Siberian forest. Their story begins beside this legendary lake, a place revered through countless generations and surrounded by land once traveled by the great horsemen of the Mongol world. For centuries, the region around Baikal guided their way of life. The teachings they embraced shaped their worldview, honoring harmony with nature and respect for the spirits believed to dwell in mountains, forests, and water. Oral histories told of migrations across the steppe, alliances formed between distant families, and the lasting influence of Mongol ancestry that gave their culture its character. Conflict rose from the vastness of the land and the shifting forces of history. Harsh winters sealed rivers in thick ice, storms rolled off the mountains without warning, and distant empires brought periods of change that tested local traditions. Yet the Buryat held firm. Their knowledge of grazing grounds, river crossings, and seasonal movements strengthened communities through challenges, both natural and political. Through each era, they protected their beliefs, preserved their stories, and carried forward a way of life built on balance between steppe and water. The climax of their story is the enduring connection between the Buryat and the sacred landscape of Baikal. Along these shores, where light moves across the water in slow patterns and the mountains stand like ancient guardians, their heritage remains alive. It continues as a testament to resilience, faith, and the deep roots of a people shaped by one of the most extraordinary places in Siberia. The Khanty shaped their world through a life built on fishing, trapping, and the quiet pulse of northern nature. Their story begins in these shadowed woodlands, a region where river bends guided early families and where each season revealed new pathways through marsh, forest, and quiet water. For centuries, the Khanty lived in harmony with this landscape of waterways and trees. Forest trails connected distant settlements, while rivers served as the lifelines that carried food, stories, and tradition. Their knowledge grew from close observation of nature. Woodcraft, river navigation, and the ability to locate game in dense forest allowed families to thrive in a region where survival depended on skill and resilience. Conflict rose not from warfare, but from the challenges of the land itself. Winter storms moved across the forests without warning. Ice hardened the rivers and made travel difficult. Yet each hardship forged stronger ties between the Khanty and their environment. They adapted their tools, refined their traps, and developed seasonal rhythms that allowed them to endure long periods of cold and isolation. The climax of their story is the quiet endurance that continues along the Ob River. In these northern forests, where water reflects the pale sky and tree lines stretch toward distant horizons, the Khanty maintain a legacy shaped by river knowledge, ancestral memory, and the steady patience of people who have lived close to nature for centuries. Their presence remains woven into the landscape in one of Siberia's vast and timeless regions.